Hello everyone. Welcome to the first New York Times Food Festival. Thank you for coming out in this insanely beautiful day. This is Jess Shadbolt from King, one of our absolute favorite restaurants. There is no one who does not like the food there. That is a challenge. What doesn't he like about him? That's what parents are for, really, yeah. So just tell us what you're going to make today.
Well, so what I want to do today, I'm going to make a orecchiette, and I kind of chose this recipe because it's such a showstopper when you've kind of got your friends coming around. It's a real kind of like wow factor, and it's so easy. It's like embarrassingly easy. And the ingredients that you need for it are kind of store cupboard essentials. So anyone can do this, I promise you. Anyone has these ingredients in your cupboard. If you don't, get them, and you can be able to whip them out in an emergency when you've got
What are these ingredients?
So the ingredients are, so first of all, the dough for the orecchiette. So this is just so simple. Orecchiette is just semolina flour with water. So unlike a fresh pasta normally where you'd be using egg yolks, and a semolina and a 00 flour. This is just one type of flour and water.
Right. So already, you know, if you've seen other people make fresh pasta or watched it on television, you have to make that big mountain of flour and gradually whisk in the eggs. It's a nightmare.
Yeah, this like you do. You can do it in a New York City kitchen because you need about this much space. It's fine. You don't need one of those like pasta machines where you have to do the dance with reams of fresh pasta. And you literally just need you don't even need a KitchenAid. We're going to use a KitchenAid today, but I don't have one at home, and you can just use your hands. So it's super easy. So that's the dough. And then we're going to make a sauce with it. So obviously this is like a classic recipe from Puglia. They make orecchiette until the cows come home. It's sort of part of this like amazing social cohesion with the nonnas sitting on doorsteps, sort of rolling these orecchiette for hours. And then typically they would make this sauce, which is with cima di rapa, which is like a sort of broccoli rabe or a turnip top. But in true classic situations, I went to the restaurant this morning and the broccoli rabe wasn't available today. So we have these delicious dandelion leaves, which are exactly kind of really do offer the same thing. They've got that like nice bitterness. Yeah. But you could use chima, you could do these dandelions really nice, you could do a rainbow chard, you could it's really flexible. So this is another reason why I wanted to show you this recipe, because it's kind of like fridge trawl, whatever you've got in your fridge, you can go for it. So dandelion leaves, and then we're going to just make a little sauce with the dandelion leaves, some beautiful Taggiasca olives, anchovies, and a little bit of ricotta salata, I think. Should we go?
Go.
Okay. If I forget something, Julia, please tell me, because the chances are high. Salted water. Always have a pot of this going in your kitchen. It's the first thing I put on my stove when I come in, because you're bound to need some boiling water, and then it's there. Make it salty, like kosher salt. We always use kosher salt in blanching, and we always use Maldon salt for sort of finishing.
So the reason that Jess knows so much about what the grandmothers do in Puglia is that she worked in London at the River Cafe, a very, very famous, modern, simple Italian restaurant that is not in Italy, but a whole generation of British chefs have been through the kitchen there. Jamie Oliver began there, April Bloomfield began there, and they take their cooks to Italy, I believe, on educational trips.
Yeah, so we go to taste the new olive oil. I say we go. We were taken to taste the new oil, which we are actually. I thought we had this somewhere. There was a green bottle of Capizana. I'm sure we'll find it. But so olive oil is harvested in the first week of November, and we were lucky enough to be taken to Tuscany to try this very Tuscan oil, which is very peppery and quite verdant green. And we finish everything at the restaurant with this oil. So it's got this amazing flavor. If you find it, you want to buy first press olive oil, single estate olive oil, if you can find it. And unlike wine, which kind of gets better with age, olive oil, you want to have it sort of straight off the tree. So the greener, the better. So, oh, here it is. Amazing, thanks. So Capizana, they do sell this in Murray's. It's fiercely expensive. It's well worth it. Drizzle that on your salads or your figs. It's absolutely delicious. Really peppery, and you won't be disappointed.
Yeah, more and more olive oil producers here and really all over are putting the date of the harvest. This is a 2018, and overall, about 2 years is as long as it has a life of like being really delicious. Of course, you can use it. After that, you can use it for deep frying. A lot of people think that you can't, and there was a whole myth about how it has a terribly high smoke point and it burns. That's actually not true. In fact, the olive oil people feel that is a conspiracy that was put about by Big Canola. I was told. I write often about olive oil. We have a lot of stories about it at nytimes.com, and it's a very deep, dark, complicated product. But certainly something I've learned to look for is that harvest date. So now we are actually, in case you thought we were just skipping to the sauce and Jess was not going to prove that you could make this pasta,
yes.
We are now making it.
I even gave this recipe to my mom, who is the laziest cook. She's a very good cook, but she's very lazy. And she was like, oh, darling, it's surprisingly easy. So if my mom can do it, anyone can. So chuck it in the mixer. I didn't weigh it out. Depends how many people you've got coming for this fabulous dinner party that we're prepping for. But into the mixer, and enough water to bring it together. And actually, what we've done is we've made a few samples of the dough that I think these lovely people are going to pass around. So just so that you can get a sense of what it feels like, because you want a dough that is like relatively robust, but it has some movement to it, but not too wet. So have a prod, pass it on to your neighbor. We can all become friends. Cooking, bringing people together.
It shouldn't be like bread dough, like I feel like a baby's bottom is what people usually say.
Yeah. Oh, I've not heard that one, but yes, it's kind of got like it's got a little bit of texture to it, but and it has some.
So it looks like you're adding the water a very little bit at a time.
Yes, purely because I don't know how much I need, but yes.
No, but.
Okay, so let that come together. As I said, if you're doing this at home, make a mound, as Julia said, like when you were doing a fresh pasta, make a little well, and then start incorporating the water, first of all with like a fork or even a knife. You could like chop it in, and then really get your hands in, and you can start getting it together. Not hang around now. This is so nice, this mixer. Okay, so that should come together, and then what we'll do is we will finish it off on the board, on the surface. Meanwhile, just want to have a look at these greens. So in Italy, unlike in France, where they cook a lot of greens sort of al dente, these are kind of, we really cook them. Italians love a well-cooked green, and we never shock the greens in ice water because we sort of feel that takes away all that delicious flavor. So we want these till they're like the stems that have no bite. And really at that point, because of all the water's being sort of cooked out of it, it really takes on any flavor that you're putting onto it. So whether it be an olive oil and a lemon juice, or just or the sauce. So we often like spinach or rainbow chard or dandelion. We really cook those just to kind of squeeze it all out, and then it really takes on the flavor of whatever it is you're introducing it to.
And especially if you're going to use it in a sauce.
Exactly.
You don't want it to be all that crisp, undercooked nouvelle cuisine kind of thing.
Yes.
That's where the shocking in ice water comes from, yeah?
The thing about shocking things is that it retains the color, okay? But like, sometimes things that don't look so good are even more tasty, in my humble. Yeah. Okay, so typically, this is a little bit wetter than I'd want, unlike the ones that you are all...
Do you want to take it out onto the...
Yeah, I'm going to just bring it out. Has everyone had a go? Do you get a sense of what it feels like? Okay, so then, kneading, put, stretch, fold, turn, stretch, fold, turn, something along those lines. But again, it doesn't need a lot. If you're doing it in a mixer, it doesn't need a lot of kneading. But you do just want to work that gluten to make it quite robust. and to make sure that when you put it in the water, it doesn't become kind of flabby. Nice and smooth. Oh, that's better. Then wrap that in plastic wrap or cling film. Done. Okay. Then we can start rolling the orecchiette, which is like the best bit. Just move this out of the way. Put this in my handbag. Okay, orecchiette, rolling. Are those greens okay? Sorry, I feel like I'm running around all over the place.
I can drain them.
Is it boiling? I don't even know. I think a little bit more.
A little bit more? Okay.
What do you think? A little bit more, I think.
Yeah, they're still crunchy.
Yeah. It's very bitter, isn't it?
I'll keep on top of them.
Okay. Okay, so orecchiette. This is so great. Have a party, orecchiette party. Invite your friends around. Drink some wine. Roll away an afternoon. This might be a bit big, actually.
So orecchiette means little ears?
Yeah, little ears. And a really great thing to do with kids. In fact, is my little friend Max here? Is Max here? No, he said he was coming. Is he here? No? Oh, I was going to get him up here to roll some with me. Anyway, yeah, really good thing to do with kids. Spend a lot of my time with my niece and nephew making these. So into a nice long sausagey thing. As long as you go, you can make them whatever size. Shh. Can I cut on here? Can I cut on here, do you think?
Yes.
So. Okay, and then literally like, I feel bad cutting on it. Okay, so just cut them into little nuggets. When I was learning pasta at the River Cafe, the head chef there is a guy called Joseph Travelli, and he's just actually published his first cookbook. You should buy it. It's called The Modern Italian Cook, and he's the most amazing chef. And he always used to make me make the pasta because he said that it looked homemade. Which I don't know if it was a compliment or not, but to be honest, he was like, Jess, your pasta looks really homemade, i.e. looks like my niece made it. Okay, can you all see this? Yes, okay. So take one of your nuggets, cut side facing you, and then push down right into the center. And then I'm putting quite a lot of pressure on here. And push away, and then like turn it. Oh, see, got a hole in that one. And then do it again. And you want that texture. I don't know if you can see that sort of perforated texture, because that's going to take on some of the sauce, and it's going to help kind of like aggravate the sauce. Like it's going to like get to know one another. That sort of, and then you just keep going. All day.
Right. So that's also true of something like a cucumber. Like sometimes there's a Chinese technique for smashing cucumbers, and they absorb so much more dressing than they do, when we cut them smoothly for salad.
Really?
Yep, they're really popular in restaurants right now, the smashed cucumbers. We have a recipe for that.
What kind of cucumbers? Just
any kind.
Any kind.
You partly peel them, and then you just smash them with the side of the knife, and it just gives them this absorbent texture. A bit like these. So these will absorb the sauce, which is what you want. You don't want it to coat it. That's why you don't ever want to oil your pasta water, if anyone is still doing that. That's one of the reasons.
Check. Okay, so you can keep going. One thing to note is that you can get this done the morning of the dinner party, or you could do it even the night before, maybe. And then you could certainly roll these out the day before and cook them that evening. It's kind of...
You are the chef.
I think for the sake of the demo, we should get it out. Okay.
We're supposed to pretend this is real cooking, Jess.
No, but I'm sure this is a 30-minute, meal or whatever. Okay, so pop these on a tray, line it with a little bit of semolina so that they don't stick together. Okay, this is this. We're getting there.
No rush.
Has anyone made orecchiette before? Great. You're all, oh, lady at the back. Excellent. Do these look like they're supposed to? Or? Okay, good. Okay, so the greens, we're just going to pull these out. It's a shame they didn't have chima because I absolutely adore it. I like chima puree, just that, like whizzed up with new olive oil and like the garlic. Oh, delicious.
So chimi de rapa is it's really turnip tops, and rapa and rab are the same word. We don't really get chima de rapa so much here. We don't use turnips as much. So broccoli rab certainly would be the easiest thing for home cooks to find here.
Okay, now we can think about our sauce. I'm going to keep this going because I'm going to cook the pasta in here because there's obviously some delicious flavor in there. Here we go, on. I think that's going great. Terrible at those kind of things. Don't need that. Okay, so the sauce. So first of all, we're going to braise this. So we kind of use this approach with lots of greens. So it can kind of be anything. Broccoli, normal broccoli, spinach. And it's a really lovely way of sort of imparting a little bit more flavor into anything. You could even do it with like chickpeas. So it's just a really basic base of dried chili, fennel seeds, and garlic. And I know this sounds really simple. I'm sure everyone knows about garlic. But some people don't know this, so I'm going to just... So we take out... It's lovely garlic. So peel it, obviously. And there's a small root that runs through the center of the garlic bulb. And that's really what kind of gives garlic the bad name. You know, that kind of like garlicky, acrid, garlicky flavor. And I don't know if you can see there's a little like butt. Can you see that? So just with the base of your knife, just remove it. And we do that with every piece of garlic that comes through that kitchen door at King, which is quite a lot. So,
I'm not going to do that, Jess.
No, you should. I promise you. Will you just try it and then let me know?
I have a more practical question.
Yes.
Is there any way to tell from the outside of garlic whether it is good, whether it is fresh, whether it is dried, whether it is good?
I guess it's when you're, well, first of all, when are you buying it? Obviously, like the spring garlic is, delicious. It's like almost eat that raw. But I think really, you don't want it to be too squidgy. Is that a technical term? Like too soft. You don't want it to be like very dry and sort of like falling all over, like kind of breaking away from itself. So kind of firm, and the color, you know, this has kind of got this lovely violet hue to it. It's just, I think really texture, like holding it is kind of the best. Is that what your trick is?
Yeah, no, okay. That's helpful. It's just difficult in, American supermarket. It's all white. Obviously you don't want it to be sprouted. If it has green coming out of the top, absolutely do not buy it. But other than that, it's often hard to tell. Farmers markets are a great source for garlic, and, you can tell the difference.
Okay, so I reckon half a clove. Is that us? Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, and then a few pinch of... fennel seeds, sorry. A bit of that, maybe a pinch of salt, just to kind of encourage the whole process. Malden this time. Bash that together. She says. Maybe a bit more salt. Okay.
Did we mention that this is our first food festival?
I'm never going to be invited back at this rate.
That's never happened.
Oh, my Lord, before. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Anyway, so imagine that that's all mixed together, bashed together. Yikes. Okay, chuck that in there, with or without the ceramic. And then I'm going to just leave this here for a second. Oh, gosh. Oh, dear, it was all going so well. Now it's not. Okay, so we've got the garlic in here. We're going to chuck a bit of oil, not too much because...
This clearly would have been the option if you're going to crush so vigorously as Jess does.
Was that even the...
No, that's a new one.
Okay, so a little bit of oil,
Magic.
not too much, because we want to use lashings of the good stuff at the end. So we've got the garlic, the fennel, the chili, which isn't particularly bashed up, but whatever. Salt, excuse me. Oh, sorry. And a bit of pepper. Not too much pepper either. This is actually a really interesting thing. At King, we use pepper very minimally. Like, because we use this olive oil so much, we think of pepper as like a spice instead of a seasoning. So it's not always like salt and pepper. We really use that kind of consciously. So salt, pepper. Squeeze this out. Chop it. Have I been asked to leave?
All right, we're having some technical, interesting moments.
So I really want to chop this quite finely. I'll just carry on, shall I?
Please, yes.
Okay. Really chop this. This in itself, like with some lamb, would be delicious. Or, like stir through some chickpeas. It's great on toast. It's like a really nice, just additional, but it's really nice as a... Is it going? Great. Okay, so put this here. And then let's talk about these olives. So, in a minute, we're going to slightly begin to warm the garlic. Cooking garlic can be an absolute dream, or if it burns, you're into a whole... Is this even... No. But you definitely want to cook it until it becomes a little bit translucent, and then just before that point is when you want to add the sauce. If garlic burns, start again. It's not worth all this lovely effort. It really becomes... frankly disgusting. So just start it again. And I burn it all the time, probably will today. But we're going to start that off, and then we're going to introduce these lovely Taggiasca olives. I love Taggiasca. They are from Liguria in Italy, and they're a really nice size to begin with. And the sort of skin and flesh ratio, there is one, is really kind of very delicate and tender. And they're not too acrid. They've got a really nice flavor to them. So if you find them, definitely buy them. And these are the anchovies. We always buy anchovies that are salted at King, so not under oil. And they're very difficult to find. Again, if you kind of come across them, grab a few tins for your store cupboard, because anchovies under salt, I don't know about you, they just have like a much nicer flavor. And because they're not under oil, the flesh retains this really nice texture.
They're not slimy.
Yeah, they're like so delicious. These on toast as well with butter is like, ugh, yum. Okay, maybe what we'll do, should I just whiz that over to here? Oh no, maybe it's going. Is it going? Yeah, it's going. Okay, so what we're going to do, so we've got our chopped greens. We're going to roughly chop these anchovies. How are we doing for time? 5 minutes. Uh-oh. As much or as little as you want. Everyone always says they don't like anchovies, but half the time they don't even know they're eating them. So, ditto, roughly chop these, because you do want a little bit of a texture against the shape of the orecchiette with the olive, which is kind of nice. Let's just
so obviously one of the fantastic things about this is that if really all of these things are already made, and it is a sauce that you make in the time that it would take to cook the pasta.
Totally.
Yeah, if you were using, and you could use dry pasta for this
You could use dry, for sure. But you wouldn't get the sort of high five from your friends on the way out of there, which is fine. But you know what? This is really nice, this sauce. I made it the other day at home with bataga, with orecchiette, bataga and chickpeas and parsley, because that's all I had. And it was surprisingly delicious. But I mean, you can put bataga in anything, can't you?
Bataga is a sort of compressed, cured, salted tuna eggs.
Yeah, like a roe.
It's a
Sardinian.
Is it Spanish or
no?
It's
well,
Sardinian?
we use the Sardinian red mullet roe, and it's sort of like the Italian equivalent, which they have like a kind of caviar. Yeah, it's sort of like
very salty.
So this is a very crucial part, although very basic. Hold your nerve. Hold your nerve. Sometimes I count back from 10, but that's personal. Because if you put your other pieces in now, you're not going to extract any more flavor from the garlic. Having said that, if you go too far, we're in a terrible situation. But I'm going to give this 10 more seconds. Then I'm going to start putting in the anchovy because I want to let that sort of slightly break down. And we always think about layers of flavor. So there's salt in the water. We're going to use that water for the orecchiette. We're going to dissolve the anchovy in this warm garlic bath. That's another layer. Then we're going to add the olives. They've obviously got a lot of natural oil in them. We're going to add that. So always think about cooking in terms of layers, where can you get your flavor laser in? And that's the kind of what makes things super delicious. And now, this. Yum. Made a right mess. Okay, great. Let's chuck the pasta in. Don't make any more of these, no. Shake off any of your extra semolina. You can use that again, definitely. This is where they all fall apart. Hope for the best. And then give them a little second. But what I want to do is we're going to cook them in in the pasta sauce. I'm sure you all know this, but obviously it's much better to kind of cook the pasta in the sauce because it sort of really takes on the flavor of what that sauce is. So a few dribbles of the pasta water in there just because it's got that lovely cima flavor. And then wait for them to rise.
So when they rise, they're done?
Well, yeah, in theory. Let's try. But, We're getting that.
So obviously this is different from what we usually think of as a pasta sauce. But when you really melt it down together in the olive oil and using the pasta water, that really is enough of a sauce if it becomes saturated with the other flavors, and then the orecchiette becomes saturated with the liquid, yes?
Exactly, yeah. And then what happens is, because of the way that they're shaped as well, they're going to sort of capture some of that sauce as well. So just chuck these in here. This is the same if you're cooking anything, any pasta. My mother doesn't get this memo because she still does pasta and then the sauce on top. Big no. She still hasn't got that memo.
A smaller serving, or do you want the big white one?
Or maybe this one. Kind of like a white plate.
Obviously, you would have more orecchiette than we had time to produce today.
Well, if anyone wants, I was going to say, no, maybe not. I was going to say, welcome to take that home and try it. Give it a turn. You really want to toss the pasta. That starch and the semolina is going to emulsify with the oil and the fat. Going to become part of that sauce. Going to let this go for a little bit longer because I think it needs it.
So should the pasta be a bit underdone when you take it out of the water?
Yes, just before it's completely done. Should spend about 1 minute to maybe 2 minutes in the sauce. And pasta should be juicy. It should be wet, it should be silky, it should be on the plate and kind of swimming a little bit, so that by the time you're gobbling it up, there's still that lovely juicy sauce at the end of it. Often pasta's perfect in the first minute, and then you're halfway through and it becomes claggy, right? Do you know what I mean? So really give it a little bit of extra juice and then you won't be disappointed. Okay, I think we're there. Gosh, I've made a mess. Okay. Bang, 30 seconds. Julia, we're going to make it.
It's okay.
Spoon. One of these.
Oh my goodness, we did not mean this to be a marathon for you.
Huh?
We didn't mean this to be a marathon for you. Or a sprint, I guess.
Okay, but maybe I've made a bit too much. My sauce to whatever it's called, orecchiette ratio is a bit out, but anyway, frankly, it's the best bit.
And this is really the key to the food at King. It's so simple, and yet it's so much better than the same dishes are in other places. And I think it's because of these touches like cooking the pasta in the sauce, having it wet, which, it can continue to absorb. It doesn't dry out.
So I wasn't happy with that. I just need it to go. I didn't feel like it needs.
And as you see, there is an element of lunatic perfectionism.
Sorry, I just kind of feel like it needs to cook a bit more, but anyway. Gosh. Good thing. Okay. This is, oh, yummy. Who's going to try this? Is anyone going to give it a go?
No, that is illegal.
Yes.
No, sorry.
Thrilled about this.
That is not allowed.
Pasta at home, knife, yes, one of these. Ricotta salata, we didn't touch on this, but this is a sheep's milk, and it is made from the whey of the sheep's milk, and then it's pressed and sort of salted, so it's got this lovely, like, chalky texture, and it's lovely on salads, great on pasta. Chuck it everywhere. Yeah, nice big shards of it because it looks great.
Yeah, it melts in a nice creamy way.
And then I love those architectural shapes. A little bit of lemon zest because why not? And then lashings of this stuff because it's great. Oh, bang on time. Thank you. Looks like a war zone.
Now this looks like my kitchen.
Okay. Try making it at home.
Yeah, it really
Please.
isn't that hard. Coming up, I think in just 15 minutes, is my colleague Priya Krishna with Indianish, and you do not have to clean up, Jess. Okay.
Thank you all for coming. Please come back at 2 o'clock for Indianish with Chef Priya Krishna.